Welcome to the Veterans Corner. I'm your host, Jay Stoyan. Now, I'm not a vet, but I'm stepping up until we have a permanent host, and we have lots of great veterans to choose from. So stay tuned. You're going to be seeing a veteran in this seat very soon. Again, you're watching the Disability Channel. We're in for a special day today as we have not only an Invictus member, an athlete, a veteran, a great guy. We have on the show today, Nick Holyome. There you go, Nick Holyome. When we come back, he's going to tell us all about his extensive career, moving from the UK to Canada. He's like a triple threat. He was in the Navy, Army, Air Force. So again, and he's a member of the 220 and 223 Invictus Games. We were there in 217 covering the media, and now we're going to take a bigger role come 225 out in BC. So stay tuned. You're watching the Veterans Corner. I'm Jay Stoyan. We'll be right back with Nick Holyome. Welcome back to the show. Nick, thank you for joining us today. We're honored to have you on the show today.
Thanks very much for having me, Jay. It's great. It's a pleasure.
This is great. Now, I want to let everybody know right now we are live on our Facebook page, the Disability Channel. I promoted Nick earlier in the week, and I think he probably had about 45,000 people comment on our Facebook page. So way to go, Nick. We love it. So again, Nick is a veteran. He's also a member of the Invictus Games. I'd like to get right into it, Nick. So before we do, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for joining us today. And just thank you for being an all-around good guy and a hero. So thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you for the kind words.
So let's get right into it. So let's take us back from the start, maybe not all the way from the start, but tell us your move a little bit, how you moved from the UK to Canada, and then tell us how you got interested in the military.
Yeah, I moved to Canada when I was 12. My dad got a job in Toronto, so we moved over from the UK. And actually flying on the plane for the first time got me interested in being a pilot. So I actually tried out for the military to be a pilot for the first time. I'm sure there's probably some other people that have done the same thing. Aircrew selection and me didn't quite work out, and so I ended up joining the Navy instead. And I became a naval reservist in Toronto, and I had a ton of fun, and got to experience sailing on both coasts, sailing up and down both coasts, with a great crew of people that I still keep in contact with today. And then that was in the early 90s.
And how old were you then?
I joined at 18. And I did the program that allowed you to go to school during the school year and then do Navy training or reserve training during the summers, which was a great paying job at the time. And plus I got to have some interesting adventures with my other naval reservist buddies on both coasts. So it was a rewarding experience for sure.
Yeah, I find joining the Navy, I guess when people think about it, like, you know, the Navy's a different entity, just like the Air Force again. When most people think, they think Army, right? They think Army, you know, boots on the ground. And so tell us a little bit of the difference between how you found the Army and the Air Force and the Navy. Which one did you like better? Which one did you find harder? Something like that. Give us a little bit of insight.
You know, they each had interesting aspects, and it's kind of like picking your favorite child. It's tough to do. I had a great time with the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. The Navy was probably, you know, gives me the most nostalgia because it was the first organization that I joined, and it was part of my formative, you know, youth and growing up, and I was still in university. So I had, you know, these great experiences during the summer, and then I'd go back and grind away at school in the school year or school months. Yeah, I can't really pick the best. They each had their own experiences. I mean, I was in the Army when I did my deployments, and so again, that was a whole new experience and interesting, tons of fun. I worked with some small teams in Afghanistan. I did a tour in Kabul and 3 tours in Kandahar with human teams. and working with CanSoftCom again was a ton of fun. Interesting, hard work. We worked really well together. Small team stuff where we worked under some pretty unusual circumstances, and it was a little bit like the Wild West in Kandahar at the time. And we had a lot of freedom of movement, which in retrospect we took on a lot of risk, but it was interesting work, and we felt like we were making a bit of a difference at the time.
I think you're the only veteran. Before we move forward, I just want to let everybody know that our employment program for veterans and persons with disabilities are watching live right now in our Toronto studio. And later on in the show, we're going to be bringing them in to ask Nick some very positive questions about his career. So this is really exciting, Nick. What you're doing right now, Nick, is so good for our platform and for our programs and for our students, as we just started a new cohort at the end of July. So this is all new to them, and it's focused on finding out more about veterans, getting veterans to share their story, maybe getting new recruits, just sort of, passing along information, because we owe a debt to you guys, because you guys protect us. And it's just so later on, I'm sure they're going to have some questions. But getting back to you being a triple threat, like I was saying, I think you're the only veteran that I can recall that, because most veterans that I've interviewed, they've only served like in the Army or the Navy, or they're a Marine. So did you serve in each sector, Nick?
Well, mine's even more complicated because I was in the Royal Marines very briefly as well in the UK. I think I served 12 years in the Navy, less than a year in the Royal Marines, 10 years in the Army, and then 2 or 3, if my math serves me correctly, in the Air Force. And that was really once we moved to Comox. I was lucky enough to be friends with the guy that was the main intelligence officer out here, and I got another reserve role after spending some time in the regular force. So, I mean, I've done, if the guys have questions about being in the military, I was in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. I served with the Special Forces as an intelligence officer, and I was in the regular force and the reserves. So I kind of ticked all the boxes. I had a pretty unique career probably because I have ADHD, but I like to do a bunch of different things. And so I was always looking for interesting opportunities. And as much as I love being in the Navy and being a Mars officer, or a naval warfare officer is what it's called now, the possibility of working with the intelligence crew and doing targeting operations over in Afghanistan was even more appealing. And I went through the human selection and being selected for one of the teams, and then working again with some pretty phenomenal people was an experience that is hard to match. There's certainly nothing in civilian life that comes close, I'll tell you that.
So overall, how long did you spend in the military? How many years?
With my regular force and reserve force time, I think I was in for 24 and a half years.
Wow. And what did you, now I guess because you moved around a little bit, did you finish with a particular title?
Old retired guy. Not really. When I retired, I was medically released in 2019.
Medically released.
I was released in Comox, BC, which is where we've stayed now for the last 8 years. Yeah, I didn't really have a title. I was just the in guy.
This, because you say you spent 24 years in the service. And then you retired. Can you make a living off your pension from the military?
Well, it's different circumstances for everyone. Because I was medically released, my pension is like there's some sort of math algorithm that runs behind it, and so that it gets indexed to a portion of what I made before I retired, which puts me in a reasonable place. So yes, I can make a reasonable living. or whatever the appropriate term is, off my military pension. But it's not the same for everyone.
And how long have you been a civilian, or how long have you been out of the military?
I retired in 2019, so 4 years now. No, 5 years. Oh my goodness, math in
4 years,
public.
5 years. I have to ask you this. Now, obviously, I can see guitars behind you. So tell us about how music helped you.
You know what? Music for me is absolute meditation. When I was diagnosed with PTSD and depression, I needed to find some other tools that I could rely on consistently that would help me ground myself. And there's lots of different things, and for me, exercise was one of them, but music is the other, because you have to be focused on the only two things that are sort of making the music, which is your hands and your brain trying to connect things. And so it's for me, it's kind of like meditation. In fact, my wife has come in and seen me as I'm trying to learn a new piece and drooling on myself because I forget to swallow apparently. But yeah, it's good. It's good for the brain box because it kind of blocks out all the rest of the noise and nonsense in your head, and it's good for me anyway. So sports or music, depending on the day, is my home therapy.
I love that, Nick, because you're like probably, oh, I don't know, the 15th, 20th veteran that I've talked to who's also a musician. Like, it's crazy. I got to introduce you to some of my musician friends who are veterans. Like, it's just, whoo. You know what? Hold that thought. My producer's telling me we got to take a commercial. But before we do, I just want to let you know that our Facebook page is blowing up, and we have a hi, Nick, from the Netherlands, Hanny Page.
That's awesome. Hi, Hanny.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Veterans Corner. We're interviewing today Nick Holyome. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Would you like to donate to our employment programs? Please follow the link below to donate through PayPal. All proceeds go to our programs.
Hi, this is Rocky Blyer, and you're watching the Disability Channel showcasing abilities.
Welcome back to the show. Okay, now right now I know we're having a little bit of technical, and do comment. I'm just looking right now at our Facebook, so it is blowing up. So I just want to let everybody know the thing. It's amazing. Here today, we're here with veteran Nick Holyome, also a member of the Invictus Games. So this is kind of being a little bit, and then we're going to bring in our class, and they're going to ask some questions. So Nick, let's move forward now. How did you get an introduction to the game through that, and then we'll move along. So go back to 220 or 219 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit earlier than that. It was 2017, and a friend of mine had forwarded me an email saying, "Hey, Soldier On and True Patriot Love are running some camps this year. You should apply." Because at that point, I was in the process of being medically released. And so I applied to go to a ski camp that was here on Vancouver Island at Mount Washington. And so I went skiing for a week out of the office, and it was great to be outside. And again, it was an activity that I kind of enjoyed and had fun with. And I got to talk with some other military veterans that were having some struggles too. And it kind of gave me a glimpse into the fact that I wasn't alone in what I was going through at the time. And at the end of the camp, they said, "Hey, listen, don't forget, we've got the Warrior Games coming up. The Invictus Games is coming up." And to be quite honest, I'd never heard of them. And so on a whim, I applied to be a team member, and I was thankfully chosen to be a part of Team Canada in 2020, on the 2020 team that was going to go to The Hague, which is, you can see my scarf up above my head. But world events coincided with our attempts to go to The Hague, and COVID shut the world down for a couple of years. And so we were put on hold. And during that time, we didn't really know if it was going to happen again, and there was a lot of confusion around whether or not we would go as a team or if they would have to pick new teams. And luckily, I was able to stay on. And despite having to go through some surgery and a few other health concerns, I managed to stay on the team and went to The Hague and got to experience the start of the games in The Hague until I caught COVID and ended up, as part of the Team Canada rules, got quarantined in my room for, so I got to go to another country, which was the first time we traveled since the start of COVID, and spent the better part of my trip to the Netherlands in a hotel room. So it was me, Uber Eats, and Netflix for the better part of 10 days, much to my wife and kids' annoyance, who were at a different hotel, because that's just the way you stay over there. And so it wasn't quite the experience that I was hoping for. I was pretty disappointed. So I came home and I talked to the organizers, Soldier On, and asked if I could apply again, because I was pretty bummed with how it all worked out. And I submitted my application, and again I was chosen from, I think, 650 applicants to go to Dusseldorf, and it was a huge pleasure to go again. I mean, and it really took all the pressure off me. I mean, there's two reasons why, and I'll get to the other one in a second. Because I've been through the Invictus experience going to The Hague, I kind of had an understanding of the emotions and all of the rigmarole that goes behind these massive trips to a foreign country. So I could kind of talk to a couple of people on the team that may have been a little bit more nervous going to Dusseldorf. Also, the pressure was off me because I had a heart attack 6 weeks before going to Germany. And so I'd spent 2 weeks in hospital. So my cardiologist wasn't really very impressed with me going to the sporting event. But I said to him, hey, listen, my whole team and everybody else on all the other teams has gone through a tremendous amount of physical, emotional, mental hardship to get to there. Plus, we're in Germany. So, I mean, if something was to happen, I'm probably going to get some pretty amazing healthcare. Not that I would wish that on anyone. But yeah, so I got to go to Dusseldorf last September and compete again. I competed in cycling, rowing, wheelchair rugby, and I tell everyone that is listening, wheelchair rugby is like rolling therapy. You get to have a ton of fun on the court with some of your best friends and smash into each other and yell and scream and throw balls at each other and try and score tries, which, I mean, what more could you ask for?
This is great, Nick. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I know, because the Disability Channel covered the Invictus in 2017. And let people know right now, this is a live studio. We do have a cat in our studio, so people are commenting right now. I can see on our Facebook page people commenting, hey, I can hear a cat. Yeah, there's a cat roller. There's a dog here too. So, but I want to get back to the 2017 games, because when we covered it for the first time for the media, the energy, the positivity, the support, the kindness with all the veterans, and it was truly amazing on how you see these veterans that are they're pretty tough people, how they just open up their heart and wanted to support their fellow veteran, no matter what country they were from, no matter what sport, no matter what they had. It was just truly amazing to see all the different countries come together. It's almost like, it was almost like it didn't matter who won. When I was watching this, it didn't matter who won. It was just like, hey, you got to finish the game. You got to finish the round. You got to cross the line, and we're going to make sure you get there all as a team. So I commend you, Nick. Tell us now, because obviously the Invictus Games are coming to British Columbia in 225. Have you had any thoughts, any ideas? Are you trying to solve any? Can you tell us what you're thinking about that? Because
yeah, I'm in BC. I'm on Vancouver Island, so I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away. So I've submitted my name to be a volunteer at the games. In Canada, it's typically you get a one-shot deal at being at the games or at the Warrior Games, and I was lucky enough to do it twice because of, as I've mentioned, my previous health concern. So I'd love to go as a volunteer. I've done my first interview, my preliminary interview to talk to the team and kind of express my interest. And I said to them, I'm a qualified cross-country ski coach, and I'd love to go and assist with the cross-country skiing. I've worked with athletes with a disability up here on Mount Washington, and I've worked with sit skis and helping people with a variety of mobility issues. So I'd be happy to be involved. I also was saying that I'd love to help the Nigerian team get out there on snow, because I have a funny story. When we were in Germany and it was probably 30 degrees out, we were all crammed on a bus, and I was sweating profusely because I'm a sweaty, gray-haired guy. And so a couple of Nigerian athletes got on the bus seat next to me, and they were wearing puffy jackets and toques, and they had their scarves wrapped around their necks. And I was looking at them saying, guys, what are you thinking? And they're like, oh man, it's so cold here. And I laughed and I said, you think this is cold here in Germany at 30 degrees? Wait till you get to Vancouver in February. It's going to be a whole new experience. So I think that the opportunity to hang out with those guys who they like to have fun and maybe teach them how to slide on the snow would be a pretty amazing experience. So yeah, I'd love to be involved somehow.
That's a great story. Well, hopefully, we're going to come out there, we're going to connect, and the more veterans, the more volunteers, the better. So I think what we're going to do now, we're going to take another break. I see our Facebook page again is blowing up. Everybody's commenting about the kitty, which is good. We love our pets. But when we come back, we're going to open it up to the classroom, and I think what would be best is if the class can put the question on the Facebook page, and I'll read it off unless we have a scenario. But let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and open up the Q&A for veteran Nick Holyome, who's also a member of the Invictus Games. So stay tuned. You're watching Veterans Corner. We'll be right back. Okay, so since we're live, we're going to see how we're going to do this. So I don't know if I know Allie's our teacher, right? She's our lead teacher. And it says here, here's another question. I'm looking forward to see you in Vancouver. That's Hanny Page. She's saying that to you there, Nick. So I don't know if our class has any questions. They can start posting on the wall, and I'm going to read them off for Nick, and then I'll just tell you the answer. So let's have the first question, Allie. If someone can post on the Facebook page and I can read it, please.
I see one question here from John Philip Young asking if I have any pets. I have a dog, but I don't have a cat.
Okay, there's the first question. Do you have any pets, Nick?
I have a dog.
And what's your dog's name?
The dog's name is Lily. She's probably asleep somewhere right now because she just went for a nice long walk.
Lily. Okay, so now they're texting me questions, so I'm going to ask a question. So 2020, give us one of your best moments and I guess one of your worst moments.
In 2020, we got to go to the Marine Corps Warrior Trials in California as a team, and that was in February, so just before COVID kicked off. And the crew at Camp Pendleton treated us like gold. There was athletes from, I think, 9 other nations that had Marines or Army that had served together. So there was Brits there, the Dutch were there, Italians, French, and a few, maybe Colombia, a couple others. And we got to do 2 weeks a week of training and then a week of competition. And I was in pretty good shape at that point, and I got a gold medal in cycling in the criterium, and I got bronze in the time trial and bronze in one of the rowing competitions. So I had an amazing experience, and again, it was amazing to see all of these veterans get together and share stories and have a laugh. And as much as they may have been hard charges when they wore the uniforms, now dealing with their current circumstances in life and realizing that the new normal is what you have to get used to, and you have to embrace that, and try and work as hard as you can with your current abilities and limitations. It was an amazing experience. My worst point in 2020 was probably when the world shut down. That was a pretty scary time. us here on the Vancouver Island, and I think probably everyone everywhere, when we realized that this virus had put everyone in a bit of a panic.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we have another question here. What interested you in cybersecurity?
I've always been a bit of a nerd, and my work as an intelligence officer was really interested, and I really liked the problem-solving aspect of it, and I liked working with, it's kind of like doing a puzzle in a different room using a translator to piece it together, and you don't even have the map that you're supposed to work off. So when I retired, I was looking for some sort of adjacent career that I could move into. And I had a friend that had been working in cybersecurity, risk management in Vancouver, and it's just you should look into cybersecurity. It's kind of up and coming at the time, and so I was looking for something to put my attention towards. And it has a lot of similarities towards intelligence work. In Afghanistan, as an intelligence officer, a human officer running various sources and agents, we were looking for bad guys doing bad things in the desert. In cybersecurity, you're looking for bad people doing bad things online, and often you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. You don't have all of the you don't have the map. You have to kind of piece it together and use a variety of tools and techniques to kind of figure out what's happening. And then it requires some subby pencil work, and there's some great applications that will help you figure out who's doing what to whom and why, and then writing up all the reports. And as I said, as a nerd, I really like the problem solving side of things, and I liked having some new challenge to put my focus on, and cybersecurity was one.
Well, you still seem quite passionate about it, so that's for sure. Okay, next question. Next question would be, how rewarding was competing in the Invictus Games, and did you feel resilience from sports competition?
Competing in the Invictus Games and just the training process altogether, being together with a bunch of veterans, was an amazing experience. It was incredibly rewarding. Actually, going back the second time to Germany was even more rewarding. As I said, the pressure for high-level competition was off because I had some medical limitations to deal with. But it allowed me to experience the other 25, 30 members of my team and their trials and tribulations and phenomenal success. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have come home with a medal, but the medals weren't all it could be for me. I had an amazing experience interacting with not only the Canadian teammates, but the team members from across the world. I mean, there's nowhere else in the world at that time, so September 2023, where you could have sat out on the balcony, had a cup of coffee and shared it with Americans, Australians, British, French, Dutch. We had some Jordanians there. There was some Iraqi, there were people from all around the world being able to sit there and enjoy the experience, and it was amazing to watch. And for me, as I said, the recovery through sport has been so powerful for me. It was great to see that translate across language barriers and physical barriers and emotional barriers across the whole experience.
That's great. Thanks, Nick. Okay, couple more questions. Boy, these people did their research. So question number 3, I was reading a blog post you wrote on Vanguard in 2/22. In the article, you mentioned With You, With Me uses psychedelic or psychotic testing, maybe. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, the psychometric testing that With You, With Me was a process, an algorithm that essentially some really bright people have put together that takes your testing scores and applies it against a benchmark. And what the company had done is they tested some number of thousands, 25, maybe 30,000 people across the Australian forces, taken all their scores and kind of looked at what trade you had been, what life experience you had, and where you best fit in the technology sector. So they were trying to stream people that were leaving the forces and were feeling maybe hopeless or maybe like they didn't have transferable skills, and say, no, you have an incredible skill set coming out of the forces. And if you apply those skill set into these regions, whether it was data and analytics, cybersecurity, programming, software development, then you would have success based on your psychometric scores. And so they look at a wide variety of things that you can be tested against. Like how do you solve puzzles in 3D space, your word associations, math skills, science knowledge, a variety of things. And then they take those, benchmark them, and help you figure out what you could and could not be good at. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed myself.
Wow, that's a pretty good question. That's a great answer too, Nick. Thank you. So one more question from the team, and then I'm going to end up with one question. So here's a question from Adam. Nick, I currently have a friend in the Royal Navy, so he is always MIA for weeks. He's always away. Could you share what it was like for you being away for days and weeks or months from your friends and family? How, and if it was the same during the Air Force and Army. So how did you cope with being away from your family and friends for so long, Nick?
Well, when I was in the Navy, early days, I wasn't married. And so being away, like the ship and the crew on ship were basically my family, my de facto family. I mean, I have my mom and dad and 3 brothers that I left behind and went off to do my training. And so it was always interesting to come home with some stories and kind of talk about the things that I'd done while I was away at sea. As I got older and I was married and I had kids, being away for long stretches was definitely challenging. I had a period where I was either on course deployment or post-deployment for probably about 8 years, and it was very challenging to be away that long for myself, but also for my wife and son at the time. And yeah, it's one of the things you sacrifice is time with your loved ones to be away, to do these things that you feel make an importance. As I said, I felt like we were making a big difference in Afghanistan at the time, and the people that we were working with and trying to protect against some of the insurgent activity. I felt like we were doing good work. So it was, at the time, I felt like it was a worthy sacrifice.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to end it with one more question. So, Nick, if you just wanted to pass along a message to your fellow veteran, some type of positivity, some type of tip, some type of advice, something that you've experienced, what would you pass along to your fellow veteran? Just, something that you want to share.
Yeah, getting out of the military is a tough change for everything. You kind of give up your family, your friends, your network, and you move into something different. So my biggest suggestion to people that are retiring or being released from the military is find a new community involvement, a new group that you can connect with, whether it's through some of these many amazing veteran communities that are out there, but stay connected. Find a new group to connect with and do something with them, whether it's play music or get involved in some sports. There are sports available for all types of skills, abilities. I fully encourage people to stay connected.
That's great, Nick. I really thank you for being on the show today. Like I said, we're going to be heading out to the Invictus Games. I know this is going to be the last time we're going to be talking. I know I'll be seeing you out there, and just let every veteran out there know that this is a home for you. So like Nick said, if you're looking to connect with a new group, a new platform, new support, give the Disability Channel a chance, and hopefully you'll love it. We also offer employment programs. So if you're looking for a new purpose in life, a new skill, a new job, looking to transition from the battlefield to the workforce, give us a call. We are a vendor with the VA, and I'm sure you would qualify. So again, you're watching the Veterans Corner. I'm Jay Stoyan. I'm going to come back after one short commercial break. I'm going to wrap the show with some announcements. So Nick, I really thank you for being on the show today, and we'll see you soon.
We'll see. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
not made for standing still. Seems like where I'm bound is always over one more hill. And I'll go the extra mile for you even when the going's hard. God gave me a trucker's heart. Hey, this is Marie Norris. You're watching the Disability Channel, showcasing ability.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I just want to thank our guest today, veteran Nick Holyome, all the way from the UK. He lives here now out in BC. I want to thank Ali and our employment program team, our classroom. They participated. Wonderful questions. We got a great team. Wow. We met them the other day. I think there's 15 people, including 6 veterans, mentors, and Sam's taking the course. So it's great. And Nick, I really want to thank you again for being on. We talked Invictus Games. We're so excited for the Invictus Games. We're going to be supporting them. I just want to give a big shout out to a couple of people. I want to give a shout out to Big Ottawa Senators and Doug Smith, the alumni. I want to give a big shout out to RBC. We're having a tour. We're having a concert tour. The Disability Channel, Wild Child Records, along with Big Records and Mark and his team out there on the West Coast. So stay tuned. We're going to be hitting some venues. We're going to be hitting some legions. We got some great support from Long and McQuaid, AMG, Sirius XM. The list goes on and on. So again, I'm Jay Stoyan. This might be the last time you're going to see me on Veterans Corner, as we're looking for a host right now. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.